last time we did a coaching session, we were working on this critical voice.
So networking, um, I have a networking group that I meet with once a week, but I have the capacity to meet with probably 15 other groups, chapters, whatever, of this networking group that I can go and visit, speak with, do stuff, which would be, of course, great for developing my business. Those things aren't getting done. I beat myself up for that.
Thank you for sharing this. And what I'm observing are two things, if you don't mind me sharing. So the first thing is hi everyone, I'm here today with Colleen again, and I'm very happy. This is our third coaching session. I'm very curious what she comes up with today, and I hope everyone who is watching can get a lot out of it too. And now, Colleen, my time is all yours. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So last time we did a coaching session, we were working on this critical voice, which was very harsh and not nice, but wanted to support you, and you transformed it into a loving, kind voice. And you said, well, you would have done your to-do list anyway, but you would have done it with discipline and with pushing yourself. And then after the session, it felt more like with a, well, maybe we can, in a loving way, we can do it in a loving way. So I'm now very curious, what has happened since our last session and how did it go with this voice?
Well, I don't, I think I would like to be more aware of the voice, right? It's so insidious. It's so just there that I don't always even know that it's there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say for a week, maybe a little bit more, because it's been 2 weeks. What I noticed most is that I was not as tired. So I would often find myself just like so tired, like I couldn't keep my eyes open tired. And I've been working with, functional medicine practice on this, what physically what's going on. There's definitely some things there that, we're working on. But what I found after our session is I just wasn't as tired. And I think the tiredness is part of the procrastination. Because when I needed to, when I'd have like free time, so unscheduled time, then I would often, I'd be like so tired that I just couldn't keep my eyes open. I'd have to take a nap. And I found that I wasn't needing to do that. Which was, that's a big shift, right? That's a big shift. And I even tried, because I'm so habituated, like, oh, I'm going to take a nap, and I lay down and I'm like, I can't even sleep now. It's like, it just wasn't coming, which is good. And I think I was taking action easier, I'll say, not as much kind of battle with myself to get things done. In the last, maybe, I don't know if it's a full week, but definitely 4 or 5 days, I'm kind of struggling again. And again, I'm not as conscious of that voice, right? But like today, I'm very conscious of that voice, and it's harsh again, right? So it you're not doing what you need to do, and kind of come back. So it's interesting that it's sort of shifted back into that. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing this. It's very interesting and fascinating. So you could feel the shift, and you were not as tired. as you've been for years. But now the last 4 or 5 days, it seems like it shifted back. And what you also mentioned, very important, is that you're not always aware about this voice because it's always there. Like right now, obviously, we make a topic about
Yeah.
this, we make a big theme around it, and then you're aware. But in the everyday life, you tend to, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you are used to it so much so that you
Yeah.
don't even, okay, okay. So, and for today's call, what would be the greatest outcome of this session you could?
Very good question. Well, I don't know if I don't know what I want at the end of the session. What I want to get to, place I want to get to. I have been. This is also like a little tidbit of data. I haven't been using the to-do list very much, right? So I was being pretty consistent. Now I'm not consistent. And I had this routine where, every night, weeknight, I would give myself the weekend off. But every weeknight, I would, write down what I'm grateful for. I would track my food, my mood. I had food, mood, body, energy, productivity. And I would give myself a rating on each of those, just sort of, you know, tracking. And also trying to see if there's a connection between food and energy and productivity, right? Which I never really saw, but, you know, possible still. And then I would write down all of the things that I had done in the day. And then I would write the 3 things, that would sometimes be 5 things, but that I needed to get done the next day. And I was pretty consistent with that for months. And I think it's actually been since, well, I didn't do that when we were in Thailand for a month, right? And I haven't done it since. So I've been home now for a couple of weeks. And yeah, I haven't gotten back into that routine. Not doing that, not doing yoga, haven't gotten the dog walk. And so there's just all this, I'm just not doing the things basic things that I need to do, that I want to do. And so what I want is to get back to the place where I'm doing the things I need to do. And I know that those things help in the big picture. They're small things, but they help. And I'm just not doing them.
Okay.
Had something recently that are having this issue, and so I think it's also interesting. I'm on the coaching side with them, and yet I'm having the same issue that they're experiencing.
And that's very, very interesting. Thank you for mentioning that, because a lot of people think mistakenly that just because we are coaches, we don't have these issues. I don't know why, but because we also are humans like everyone else, and the best coach has a coach, and the best coach is still a human. This makes us just the best coaches when we go through that experience also, because we can share from our own experience. We know how it feels. We felt it. We went through that. So that's really important. And that makes us even better coaches when we say, yeah, well, I know how it feels. And I know also how to get out there because I went through that. So that's amazing. That we have to, that we can use our experience. That's the great part of being a coach. And what I hear you say is, what you want to get out is to go back to this routine, which is very helpful for you in many different ways, like, for example, yoga and tracking and writing down and gratitude. But you couldn't since you came back from Thailand. So you didn't. And then also you stopped writing the to-do list. But this was recently, right? You did it when you came back from Thailand or no?
No, I didn't start. Well, I
Okay.
was doing I was doing the to-do list a little bit when I came back from Thailand, but then I wasn't. And then let me just add one other little piece into here. I leave on Tuesday for a 2-week road trip where I really won't be working. And I mean, I suppose there are some things that I will do, but I'm not going to be, there's no routine again, right? It's a vacation, I guess. And I know I've witnessed this before, that when I break the routine with going on vacation or going on a long weekend or whatever, then it's hard to get back to it. And so now I'm talking about wanting to get back to it and then thinking, well, I'm leaving again. So I don't even, I mean, some of it I can still do. I can still do the food, mood, and, great gratitude. But when it comes to productivity, it's sort of a moot point for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I totally understand you. And if you don't mind me sharing a story from my personal life, in the last 8 or 7 years, I was moving about 11 times. I lived 5 months on a boat, and I know exactly how it feels. So trying to establish a routine, and then everything gets messed up again because you change location, you do something else, you're traveling, or everything is different, and suddenly you live on a boat or you do a road trip, whatever it is. And what I've learned through that time, because I was also, oh my God, and they even forgot my habits. I forgot sometimes what I used to do because I was so out of my normal life, whatever that is. And I just forgot. I forgot to take certain supplements. I forgot to do certain steps. I forgot to do certain things in the morning, in the evening. That's how it was. But after having changed so many times and moved so many times, I realized also, well, two things. First of all, if I choose this kind of life, then I want to make it happen, that I do it, then I have to find a way to integrate my routine in the ever-changing lifestyle I have. So I have to find a way, but I cannot. But what I did is I expected somehow that it would run alone, and then I was beating myself up for that it didn't work. And I was very cruel to myself. But once I made this agreement, or once I made this choice, so to say, okay, now I have to find a new plan, because it's just unrealistic to believe that it would work the same way, for example, when I live on a boat, than when I live in a house, which is my house also. And once I understood that, well, I didn't do something wrong or I wasn't bad. I found out a plan or a method, a way how I could make it happen and adapt in that way. So yeah, let me know when you listen to that story. Did this resonate with you?
Yeah. 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 This isn't the first time that I've run into this, right? Where I'm like, consistency and getting back in the routine after returning back. And I've even, over the last several months, I've been having this conversation about, you know, how much work can I do? Can I expect myself to do when I travel as much as I travel? Right. Because I've been having these pretty high expectations about what my level of business is. Right. And then I'm like, well, how realistic is that? Because I'm not going to give up the travel. Right. Like that I'm not going to give up. So maybe I need to adjust my expectations about how much business I actually develop and should expect myself to develop when I'm gone pretty regularly, right? I mean, I was gone for 26 days in March. I'll be gone for 15 days in May. You know, it's a lot. I went camping for four days, a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, right. So you're yeah, I get it. It's like, yeah, okay. So the reality is my life is not a consistent everyday routine. It isn't,
And why is it not that? Why is it not this routine?
because I'm choosing it.
Yes. And why
Yeah.
do you choose this?
Mm, well, it's fun. And it is a big part of my relationship, right? We travel together. He's retired. So he's got a lot of free time. But and it's well, yeah, this is a good question. So there's many parts to it. Part of it is, I really like adventure and I like new things and I like to learn about new cultures. And that is very rewarding and fulfilling to me to do that. Like this trip coming up, it's all about family. We're seeing 4 or 5, I don't know, 6 different family connections, during this time. Which is important. Right.
So what I observed and what I hear you say is, well, you have this lifestyle because you choose to have it. Why do you choose it? Because it's fun,
Mhm.
because it's for your relationship, because you like it.
Yeah.
So that's something you want to live that way. That's a choice. And then you said something super important here also. That's my reality. And that's how it is. So I have to make the expectations of myself also something realistic.
Mhm. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because until now, what was until now in this aspect?
Yeah, so I'm of 2 minds in this as I'm kind of looking at it. So, I tend to make this kind of master to-do list, which is kind of all the things that I'd like to do. So we'll just focus for the moment on my business. So, things that are, I know you're familiar with the important but not urgent, concept, right? So I put all of those things on to keep them, to track them. Um, Things like I'd like to update my website, right? It's not urgent, but I feel like it is important, right? Um, Changing some of my intake forms, not urgent, but I think would be helpful, right? So all those are some examples. Oh, well, here's another one. So networking. Um, I have a networking group that I meet with once a week, but I have the capacity to meet with probably 15 other groups, chapters, whatever, of this networking group that I can go and visit, speak with, do stuff, which would be, of course, great for developing my business. And so those things aren't getting done, right? They aren't. And so then I beat myself up for that because why are you not doing that? Right? You're not doing the things that you need to do for your business. And the same could be said true for, my personal. So I have 3 categories: my work, my personal, and then I've been working on my sister's estate. And, there's things that need to happen there. And so yeah, so I don't do the things that I do all the things, like If it's on my calendar with a client, that happens, right? If it's a follow-up with the client, that happens because there's an urgency to it. But when there's no urgency, no deadline, then, things get put off. And then I beat myself up for
That was very, very interesting what you said. So you have this to-do list because where we went from was like maybe the planning, what you did was not adapted to the lifestyle you
Right.
chose.
Right. That's it. That's right. So recently, and maybe since our last session, I don't know, maybe it's that kind of recency, I have been sort of doing this, I get through the day and then I'm like, well, you kind of were busy today. So even though you didn't get to, all these other things, your day is pretty full. So, and you've got a lot of things going on. And I am sort of questioning that how realistic is it for you to get these things done? Then I do, well, other people get them done. No. Other people are able to do it. And, my kids are grown. I'm not taking care of kids. And I look at, people and I'm like, well, my gosh, they got 3 kids they're taking care of. And they're doing, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I've got myself to sort of take care of. Right. I don't have family to feed and haul around to soccer and, all that. I don't have all of that going on. So yeah, so I'm doing a little bit of comparison and judgment. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. And what I'm observing are 2 things, if you don't mind me sharing. So the first thing is, and I'm very happy to observe this, that you found recently yourself acknowledging you for what you have done. Well, you have done quite a bit of things, but at the other hand, and this is very common when we do work on ourselves, like sometimes the really deep underlying root sometimes is taken away, but then we have to somehow get to know how to deal with the new thing, with the loving voice instead of the critical voice, with like knowing, okay, now I don't have to protect myself anymore. I can. Okay, but now how do I live with this? And I have the feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, that now it's just when there is everything set, and now there needs to be little adjustment in your everyday life. Okay, how do I then apply it when I'm not harsh to myself anymore, and when I don't procrastinate in order to keep me safe? How
Mhm,
does this work actually?
mhm, mhm.
Does this sound correct?
Yes, I've found myself saying that very same thing to other people recently.
Oh, that's interesting. So we have a great connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, you don't know how to behave in this new world. You're habituated in the old way, right?
Yeah, and coming back to what we talked before a little bit is, how do I know? Well, I have been there also. I
Mhm,
also did the deep work. That's why I know how it feels. And then suddenly, yeah, well, the surgery is done, but now, how
mhm,
do I work with this muscle? How do I strengthen this muscle again? I need the physio.
mhm,
And that's what we're then doing, what we're about to do. But the hardest thing is done, so to say, or the bigger thing, and then it step by step to to go into this new being or to integrate it into that world. But what I also see is that you're already about to do that by considering, well, how can I make this realistic for myself? Because now I'm not cruel to myself anymore. That's just a little rest. So it's like you changed, but now my body and my being doesn't know how to work in this new frequency. So
Mhm.
how do I teach them? How do I do that? How does someone who is loving to themselves do this?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And when we look to all the things you have to do, I mean, you already know, well, you chose this life because you want to. You love it. It's fun. And you know also now you deserve it to have fun. It's your life.
Mhm. It's a
And
good life too, quite frankly.
yeah, yes. And that's good.
It's a very good life.
And when you say this, it's a very good life, it's a pretty good life. How do you feel while saying this?
Yeah, I feel good.
Good.
Yeah, I feel good. And when I look at the variety and the mm, my my weekly, if I don't know, weekly, monthly experiences, it's really good.
Okay. Now that's a great start. Or not a start, that's a great um place to be. And then now we just have to see how can we fit the other parts into that great life,
Oh,
but not the other way around.
right, right, right. Mm. Yeah, turn it around.
And you said also before something, I want to just go back there also so that we don't miss anything. You said, well, you observe yourself comparing and judging. And you know already, I mean, that's not a secret that we know that the energy goes then somewhere where it's wasted. Um, but sometimes it helps to remind ourselves when we compare ourselves, what we do is we take the worst part from us,
Mhm.
comparing the very best part of the other.
Mhm.
And not and just taking a snapshot, like a picture, the very most beautiful picture in on their wedding day compared to our picture when we just got out of bed. And then saying, "Oh my God, I'm so ugly." But we don't see what's before, what's after, what do they have to do.
Mm.
And we don't know anything. We don't know what they did. It seems that they did because they posted it or they said it, but we don't know unless we live their lives.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's so important to remind ourselves, well, I don't even know if that's true, what I tell myself,
Right.
this story about those people. Because
Yeah.
just because I saw that post, just because she told me that, I don't know
Yeah, we don't know the whole story.
exactly.
Right.
So just to take out also this little um, road where you could back a little bit, I just wanted to look at that again, but
Yeah. Yeah, no,
no,
that's fair. And, Facebook, Instagram is the worst for all of them, right?
of course.
And I will occasionally, I'll see some posts from some people and I'm like, you go, wow, how cool. And isn't that lovely? And then I go, wait a minute, I know that family, right? It's like, I know these people. I know what's going on behind the scenes. And it isn't all this, what's being shown and posted, right? There's definitely more to the story. And you're right. The people that I'm kind of comparing myself to, first of all, are, you know, 10, 15, 20 years younger than I am, a very different place in their career, earnings journey than I am, and family experience too, right? Yeah, it's not even fair to compare. When I compare
Yes.
myself to my peers, then it's a very different expectation. I mean, I definitely have some peers that are doing some amazing things, but if my contemporaries, oh no, I'm kind of they would look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, you have so much going on. You're getting so much done," right? They would look at me and say that.
Now you are reading my mind because I wanted to ask you the very same question. What if someone would look at your profile, at your post, or at your whatever you do
Right, right.
and compare you to them?
Yeah,
And then we, oh, wow, she gets so much time. And we don't know this also. We don't know what the other people which we compare us to really
right,
have. And we don't know how many people we impress and how many people wish to be at that point where we are right now.
right.
So if we compare and if we want to look at other people, why don't we choose this story and think about, well, maybe there are people who admire what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I never know this also.
yeah, yeah. No, there are. I know there are.
Yeah.
People tell me, right?
Mhm. So
And
then it's all about focus because the more we focus on something, the more we get about it.
right, right, right. Yeah.
So
You know,
next time,
when it was as we're talking about this, it's like it's little things. It's really little things that I want to change. Um, and and if I can make well, here we are. This is what I say to people. I love how this comes around. If I could make 1% increase or improvement, right, on these little things day after day after day, my goodness, where would I be, right? Instead of expecting myself to go from 1 to 100, well, just the little things every day.
oh, oh, that's amazing. That's so much wisdom there. And how can you do that?
Do it.
So in all of that, what you want to do now, what the next step?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is good because, I do get to this place periodically and then I don't take the steps. So, right.
Yeah, we all are the same because then we know, okay, we have it, but there it's still a cloud of things,
Yeah. Yeah.
cloud of ideas.
So, here's two things that I feel like if I did these things on a consistent basis, that would be helpful for me, you know, in a variety of ways. It's a good thing. Again, these are not earth shattering. Yoga. So I did yoga for half an hour, 4 times a week for a couple of years. And then I haven't done it now for quite some time. But I know if I do that, that's good for my body. It's good for my mind. And when I do it, I then say to myself, well, look at you, good for you. You did that, right? You're doing this for yourself. That's a really good thing, right? So I'm able to give myself that kind of feedback when I do that. And then the other thing, which, my house is I've said this numerous times over the last numerous months, maybe at its worst in terms of disarray and, upkeep. And I keep thinking, if you just did 15 minutes a day, right? Now, the house, I really need about 2 weeks of dedicated time to get it to where it needs to be, but that's not going to happen. So it's like, well, if you did 15 minutes a day, you know, that would make a difference. And then I don't do it.
Okay, there are two things. So one thing is yoga, and you used to do 30 minutes 4 times a week, which is a lot. I'm a yoga teacher and I do yoga, but I rarely do, well, I never do 30 minutes 4 times a week. I do sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 5, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes even an hour. But that's a lot, and that's great that you did it. And the second thing is the house. which would need 2 weeks, but that's not going to happen. And 15 minutes a day could be possible, but you didn't do it. And now my question, let's maybe take the house first. When you think about the house and you think about, oh my God, this needs 2 weeks nonstop work, how do you feel then?
Yeah. Heavy. Defeated. And mad at myself for letting it
Yeah.
get to, right?
Of course, this all comes when we do
Lots and
yeah,
lots of
judgment. And there we have to go there also. So we all are the same. When we say something and we do it, our self-esteem raises and we love it. If we say something, we don't do it, we judge ourselves, our self-esteem goes down in that step. But it always can change, but that's how it is. So we're all the same. And when you want to do something on your house and then you see it and you think about, oh my God, it needs a 2 weeks, it's a 2 weeks project. That's very overwhelming. But when you, again, focus on something else, when you focus on 1% it's not allowed to think about the 2 weeks. It's only allowed to think about the 15 minutes or even 10 minutes. So like what would be a task in the house, which is 10, 15 minutes, which you could now think of, which is not overwhelming, which you even would like.
Yeah. Sweep the floor on the main level. Yeah.
And this is only 10 minutes,
Probably.
realistically.
Maybe 15. Yeah.
Okay, but it would be something doable, which you wouldn't hate to do. You could.
No, it's funny, these things I put off and then I do them and I'm like, well, that's not so bad. And, that didn't take as long as you thought it would. And, yeah.
Okay. So what if now, instead of thinking, okay, I have to clean the whole house, to just think, okay, in the next week, remind me again, when do you go traveling? Next week or
Tuesday. I leave on Tuesday.
this Tuesday? Okay. Then what if you do just one room today? Only one room, not 10 minutes. Only one room, not the whole ground floor, but only one room. Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or 3 minutes or 10 minutes. And just right away after our call.
Well, I have a client right after.
Okay, well, after that.
After her.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and when you think about doing that, just one room, you're not allowed to do more. Not allowed, even if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
How does this feel?
Well, frankly, this is the patterned thing that comes up for me. Is like, well, you've said you're going to do this stuff before and you haven't, right? So let's see. It's sort of like, okay, let's just see, right?
Okay. And yeah, that's true, because you were used to that thinking also, but you were also used to say maybe unrealistic planning, like I do the whole ground floor, or I do the whole house, or I will clean my house. Which
I don't do that.
No.
No.
Okay, great. And then, but when you say, okay, I will just clean the floor of one room, but it can only be a room where it's already very easy. So it doesn't count that you have to put away a lot of things. So this can be one room, maybe the kitchen or something. We just take it, wipe it, gone.
Yeah.
Not more. So we have our call. After that, you have a client. And after the client?
I don't have any planned right now.
Okay, then you have to take time to the after work.
Yeah, so hold on. Here's what happened. This is an important thing.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. So here's the free time. What just happened is, oh my gosh, here's the 10 things that you could do and should do during that time. And so I know, I hear you saying, yeah, go sweep the floor, right? But then what happened to me was, well, I should walk the dog. I should I should go look for this for the estate. I should go, it's like this whole laundry list of things popped up for that time. That that is part of the dilemma, right? So in the past, I would take a nap, right? Because I'm just so exhausted, I just can't even keep my eyes open. Now that's not happening now. I am not napping, um, which is a really big shift. Um, but it is, I don't yet know how to not nap. Like, I don't know what
Yeah,
to do.
I understand what you mean. I understand. That's
And as
amazing.
we were talking, it went from, sweeping the floor. It's like, well, is that really the most important thing to do? Really, maybe you should walk the dog, right? And then it was like, well, but you also need to. So all this other stuff came flying in.
Okay, that's
Mom.
good. That's good. And I'm very happy and grateful that you shared it. Now, would you mind sharing this other stuff with me? What do you have to do? Let's make it
Uh,
very
well, I need to find
just a little.
yeah, I need to find these receipts for the estate. Really should, call one of my sisters who's not been responding to email, and we need her to take action. Um, walk the dog, give the dog his medicine. Um, let's see, there was something else that I'm supposed to do. I don't even know what it was because it popped in and then popped out. I could do yoga, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's just get into here for a minute because, oh my goodness, there's so many layers to this. So, need to walk the dog. Haven't been walking the dog very regularly. This dog is really old. He doesn't have many years left in his life. And so walks are really important to him. And you haven't been doing what you need to do for him. The estate. Um, yeah, you're disorganized. You don't know where that receipt is. So finding that receipt is not just a simple matter of, oh, let's go look in this file folder. I don't know where it is at the moment because I'm not very organized. And this estate has been dragging on because you're not very organized. Right. Yeah, it layers on pretty heavy, pretty fast.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's such an important point because what you now said is with every task, what I hear you say is there comes a judgment. Why haven't you done? And you blame yourself. And I told you we go back to the judgment because I already felt there is something and the blaming. And this is normal. It's not something you do wrong, but you want to get all these things done. There has to be a strategy. But you also know, as a coach and a therapist that you are, that in order to get some things done, we have to be in a certain state. We have to have the mindset for it in order to be able to do it, right? Meaning, normally there should be a to-do in the to-do list which says, prepare your mind and body for that. What you are right now doing, but you didn't give yourself the credit for it. This, I would say, is the number one and most important step to get the judgment and the hard feelings towards yourself. Transform them also because you transformed them last time so deeply. But now you have to learn how to do it in your everyday life, also with your conscious mind. So the most important words we hear, the most important words we say to ourselves. So what can you do? Maybe Marissa says it often. How can you develop a loving inner dialogue so that you can do in the future the task. And this is your first task. This is your task before you go on holiday. So when you go back, you can do all the others. So the wiping the floor is out because you have something more important to do now. And that is establishing a loving inner dialogue.
Mhm.
Has something come up to you how this would work for you?
Mhm. Yeah, so I call it the sleep mantra that I use for myself, and I tell my clients all the time. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you first say you're safe, right? You're safe. And sometimes I will even go through, let me show you all the ways that you're safe, right? You're in this warm bed, you got the dog, you've got the man, you've got this safe neighborhood, but anyway, you're safe. That's the start. And then it is, there's no decision that needs to be made right now. This is in the middle of the night, right? There's no decision that needs to be made right now. There's nothing that needs to be pondered, puzzled, or figured out right now. It is in your best interest to drift to sleep right now. It works really, really well, right? So I need the same mantra for waking. I need to translate that into my waking time and create that same kind of mantra when I get into this overwhelm, stuck, tired, right? Beat
Excellent.
myself up. Yeah.
Yes. And what's the I'm sorry to interrupt you. What's the opposite of beating yourself up?
Oh, yeah. Being kind.
And praising yourself, right?
Right.
So you shared with me at the beginning that you had a beautiful ritual or habit to write down the things you were grateful and some other things.
Yeah.
What if you don't even have to write it down? It's way better if you write it down. But what if you include this to your waking mantra?
Yeah.
Like instead of, also, I'm safe. This is always what we need. You can start with that. And then looking at everything what you have done and do and love about yourself.
So funny. These little things, so easy to tell others and see it for others. Yes.
She did. Is your task before you go traveling just to have this mantra. And if you haven't it written down, then have it in your head. And it doesn't have to be like a full page. It doesn't have to take like half an hour. It can be one sentence.
Yeah.
Just
It's
interrupt it.
short and sweet. Yeah.
Yes. And it's easy to do. And you can even do it while you're in the car. You have a
Yeah.
little notebook and you can add every day on.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I actually feel motivated. And I will, the mantra I do get, it's the first thing I need to work on because that's the programming of my self-talk that I have been missing, that I didn't know what, as you've said, didn't know how to operate in this new way, right? And so I just went back to the old way as opposed to creating a new way of operating.
Exactly. But it's so important that you recognized it, that you noticed it, and that you faced it. And this is something why you and I know when we do the deep work, it's so important. That's why we both, you and I, also offer coaching to give them a hand and then show them, well, if you don't beat yourself up, that's how you can learn to do it the other way. Because you're right. We were used to that our whole life until now, or me at least
For sure. Yeah. Decades.
And then suddenly, how do we not do it? It doesn't matter if it's self-esteem, super low self-esteem, if it's procrastination, beating ourselves up, any addiction, we have then to learn how to live, how to walk with the new shoes, how to live, how to speak the new language, however you want to visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're now so brilliantly working on.
Yeah.
And I'm still happy that you came up with this beautiful mantra which you can now use for yourself.
Yeah.
And isn't it great? Isn't it the best thing you can do, just being a coach? Once you show it all the other people, but then the second part of being a coach is having a coach, because we are also in our patterns and see everything through our filter.
Right.
Having a coach is then also something where we can then use what we tell others, but suddenly we see it, how we can apply it on ourselves. And I didn't do much today. I was just asking questions. You came up with your beautiful, brilliant ideas, knowledge, and wisdom, which you have as a coach.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you, Monica. I really
I thank you. And before we jump off the call, I'm curious, what is the biggest takeaway you take now?
that I'm exaggerating this. My only job today, my only discretionary time job is to create a mantra and say the mantra. And I do believe that things will happen after that. So if I create the mantra, that is the catalyst.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Oh, I
catalyst.
love it. I love it. I love it how you now gave this back all and summarized everything we have worked on, and it's a beautiful takeaway. Yes, it's the catalyst, and it's so important, and that's the only thing, or not the only thing, that's the most important thing you have to do, and that's why it worked to only do this until you go
Yeah.
for your road trip, and then it's then.
Yeah. And as I continue to do that and it becomes a habit and a pattern, and I can then, it's a tool that I can bring in whenever I need to, then that is, that's the start.
Amazing. I
Thank
love
you.
it. What a great takeaway. I thank you also again for being here today, for showing up. You can be one of the first things you can be proud of is you showed up. You came.
Yeah.
You were honest. You didn't look away, you faced it.
Yeah.
So one thing you can be really, really proud of. Thank you, and I can't wait to see you next time.
All right.
Have a beautiful week and a beautiful holiday.
Yes.
And it's meet each other afterwards.
Thank you so much, hon.
Cool. So you take care.